10 Most Famous Brave Female Warriors in World History. 1. Artemisia I of Caria, named after the hunting goddess Artemis. Artemisia I was the queen of Halicarnassus, now Turkey, in the 5th century BC. However, she was more famous for her role as a naval commander and the ally of King Xerxes of Persia in his invasion of Greece. Artemisia's reputation is closely associated with the Battle of Salamis, where she used a deceptive strategy to make the Greek forces believe that she had been killed, leading them to disregard her as a threat. The next morning, Artemisia I commanded 5 ships and launched a surprise attack, decimating the Greek fleet. Greek historian Herodotus praised her as a decisive, intelligent, and ruthless military leader. Artemisia I is considered a courageous and highly intelligent warrior. The queen of Halicarnassus provided valuable advice to King Xerxes of Persia. Queen Artemisia I became an ally of King Xerxes in his invasion of the Greek city-states. There are various theories about the death of Queen Artemisia I. The most famous legend states that this brave queen fell in love with a prince named Dardanus. However, Prince Dardanus rejected her love. Due to unrequited love, Queen Artemisia threw herself off a cliff at Leucas in an act of self-sacrifice. 2. Joan of Arc, also known as Jeanne d'Arc, was not only a legendary warrior, but also a saint of the Roman Catholic Church. Joan was a poor peasant girl who believed she had received visions from the Archangel Michael, guiding her to meet the French Dauphin Charles VII and help him reclaim the territories occupied by the English during the 100 Years' War. Initially, she was looked down upon by military leaders and soldiers due to her humble background and being a woman, but she quickly proved her talent and courage by achieving a resounding victory at the Siege of Orleans. At the age of only 17, Joan played a crucial role in several important victories for the French army against the English, and indirectly helped King Charles VII ascend to the throne. Joan was captured by the Burgundians, French loyalists to the English, in 1430. Despite several failed escape attempts, she was eventually handed over to the English-aligned ecclesiastical court, convicted of heresy, and burned at the stake at the age of 19. 24 years later, the Pope ordered a retrial of her case, declared her innocent, and posthumously declared her a martyr. In 1920, Joan of Arc was officially canonized by Pope Benedict XV. 3. True Thi Trinh, also known as Lady True, is one of the national heroes in Vietnamese history and a female general praised by historians worldwide. In 248 AD, at the age of 20, Lady True managed to gather over 1,000 brave soldiers and raised a rebellion against the oppressive rule of the Eastern Wu dynasty. She convinced her older brother True Quoc Dat to join the uprising with her famous quote, "I only want to ride the strong wind, step waves, slay the big whales in the Eastern Sea, clean up the realm, and rescue the people from slavery. I will not bow my head and serve the enemy as a concubine." Lady True appeared on the battlefield wearing golden armor, ivory boots, a golden hairpin, riding an elephant, and wielding twin swords, displaying a majestic and awe-inspiring appearance that commanded respect. The True Thi Trinh uprising achieved initial victories before the Eastern Wu dispatched 8,000 troops under the command of Lu Dang to suppress the rebellion. With such a vast disparity in forces, the rebellion eventually failed. Lady True held out for several months before choosing to commit suicide on Mount Tuong to avoid falling into the enemy's hands. She was only 23 years old at that time. Although the True Thi Trinh uprising failed, the image of a resilient and indomitable woman, a superhuman national heroine striving to reclaim the rivers and mountains, free the people from slavery, remains etched in the minds of Vietnamese women and the nation. 4. Nakano Takeko (1847–1868) is one of the most famous female samurai warriors in Japanese history. She received training in both literature and martial arts before joining the Boshin War, a civil war in Japan that lasted from January 3, 1868 to May 18, 1869. In the Battle of Azu in the autumn of 1868, she and other women requested to join the military, but were not officially recognized as part of the Azu clan's forces. However, Takeko gathered these women and formed a separate unit called the Shitai Women's Army. She excelled in using the naginata, traditional Japanese polearm. With the naginata in hand, Takeko achieved many victories in battle, but ultimately couldn't protect herself. Throughout the war, Takeko was shot in the chest while leading an attack against the Imperial Japanese Army in the Ogaki region. Believing that the enemy would defile her body and use it as a war trophy, she requested her sister to behead her and bury her under an oak tree. Today, a monument is erected near the Hokai Temple in Fukushima to honor this female samurai. 5. Tomo Gozen 1157-1247 is the most famous female samurai warrior in Japan. According to historical accounts, Tomo Gozen was a beautiful and elegant woman with fair skin and thick black hair, living in the late Heian period and the beginning of the Kamakura period. The title, Gozen, after her name, is an honorific used to elevate the status of women in society. She gained fame for fighting under the Minamoto clan during the Genpei War. In the epic, The Tale of the Hike, Tomo is described as an expert archer with a powerful sword arm, surpassing men in combat skills. Historical records all mention that she always appeared with extraordinary bravery, refined martial arts, and served as the right arm and loyal companion alongside the honorable warrior Yoshinaka, helping him achieve victory in the Genpei War. Later, she assisted her husband in the fight against his younger cousin Yoshitsune and achieved many feats, such as beheading an enemy samurai named Honda no Moroshige and killing the valiant warrior Wakita Yaoshi. However, despite her brave fighting, the vast difference in forces led to Yoshinaka's ultimate defeat in the battles of Yuji and Owazu. With their strength depleted, Yoshinaka and his few remaining soldiers had to retreat, leaving only a few loyal followers. Knowing that it was difficult to escape death, he told Tomo Gozen to flee because he wanted to die with his sworn brother, Amai no Shiro Kanehira, and it would be extremely disgraceful to die alongside a woman. Since then, Tomo disappeared, and the end of her life remains a mystery in historical records. 6. Queen Boudica was the queen of the Iceni tribe in eastern Britain during the 1st century AD. Despite the native people's resentment of Roman military occupation, some collaborated with them, and the Iceni tribe under the leadership of Boudica's husband, Prasutagus, was one of the client kingdoms. However, after Prasutagus died without a male heir, the Romans turned hostile, nullifying previous agreements and occupying the Iceni tribe's territory. Boudica resisted, but was beaten and forced to witness her daughters being raped. Around the 60s AD, Boudica managed to gather over 100,000 Britons, raising a rebellion to drive out the Romans. She achieved successive victories in 3 major battles at Colchester, London, and St. Albans. Boudica's rebellion frightened Emperor Nero, who planned to withdraw troops from Britain. However, with strong reinforcements, the Roman army gradually regained the upper hand and defeated the uprising forces. To avoid falling into the hands of the enemy, Queen Boudica and her daughters drank poison and committed suicide. The image of Boudica has had a significant influence on art, culture, and the identity of England to this day. 7. Grace O'Malley. Not famous in the military like the aforementioned female commanders, Grace O'Malley 1530-1603 is considered a female pirate and a renowned warrior of the 16th century. In 1576, O'Malley engaged in surrender negotiations and political maneuvering with Deputy Lord Henry Sidney over her land. Due to the distance between Rockfleet and Dublin, which took over a week to travel, and her frequent presence at sea, Crown control over her was weak. In 1593, in a letter objecting to O'Malley's resistance against him, Sir Richard Bingham declared her the nurse for all rebellions in the province for the past 40 years. Bingham was the Lord President of Connaught, tasked with controlling the local chieftains who had almost governed themselves until then. O'Malley had every reason and took every opportunity to limit the power of the English monarchy over her territory. A reconnaissance force led by Constable William G. Martin attacked her castle on Clare Island in March 1579. However, they were repulsed and barely escaped. Grace's greatest challenge throughout her career was her confrontation with Queen Elizabeth I of England. Even when her power waned, she boldly wrote letters demanding the freedom to plunder as long as the targets were enemies of England. After a direct meeting, Queen Elizabeth I granted freedom to her son and brother, as well as allowing Grace the right to fight the enemy throughout the world. She continued her career until her death at Rockfleet Castle in 1603. Lozin, an Apache warrior, is believed to have been around 30 years old when she fought alongside her brother, Victorio, and their tribe in the battle for San Carlos territory in the 1870s in Arizona, known as the Hell's 40 Acres. In the mid-1877, Victorio led Lozin and a group of Apache warriors in an attack on the Black Mountain region in New Mexico, which was occupied by the United States. Lozin always rescued women and children during her attacks. James K. Wakela, one of the people she saved, recounted, "I saw a magnificent woman riding a beautiful white horse." Lozin, Victorio's sister. He added that Lozin was skilled in horseback riding, shooting, and fighting, no different from a man. Her brother once said, "Lozin is my right hand, strong as a man, braver than any, and cunning in devising war strategies." Lozin is her people's shield and protector. Unfortunately, Victorio died just as Lozin was leading the troops back to their territory. Upon hearing of her brother's death and the battle, she immediately rushed out to save the survivors, initiating revenge massacres throughout New Mexico in 1881. Due to the difference in forces, Lozin was captured and died in prison in 1889 from tuberculosis. Her remains were returned to her tribe for burial in a sacred temple, according to Apache traditions. 9. Queen Zenobia was born and raised in Palmyra, Syria. Her father, Amr ibn al-Arab, was the tribal chief of Emlaki. After he was killed by members of the rival Tonic tribal alliance, Zenobia became the leader of the Emlakis and led them in a nomadic lifestyle, migrating between summer and winter pastures. Zenobia became the queen of Palmyra, now Syria, after assassinating her husband and her stepson in 67 AD. Within just 2 years of her reign, she resisted Roman expansion and expanded her nation's territory through invasions of Egypt and Anatolia. She always presented herself as a leader who valued her soldiers, readily marching alongside her army for miles. To them, she was a true warrior queen. Zenobia controlled vital trade routes before the Romans attacked and besieged Emesa, where her treasury was located. Along with her son, Vabilathus, she was captured after fleeing the siege. They were held as hostages, but Vabilathus died en route to Rome. The Romans celebrated their victory by chaining Zenobia with golden chains and parading her through the streets like a captive in a triumphal procession. Afterward, her fate became a mystery. Some say she died from illness or starvation. Another theory suggests that she was spared by Roman Emperor Aurelian and granted freedom. She supposedly remarried a Roman politician and lived with her daughter in a luxurious house. 10. Queen Ahotep I. Ahotep I was a prominent figure during the New Kingdom period of ancient Egypt. She played a crucial role in establishing the 18th dynasty of ancient Egypt and paving the way for her two sons, Kamose and Ahmose I, to unify Egypt after it was invaded by the Hyksos. Considered a warrior queen, she led military campaigns against the Hyksos and was buried with symbolic weapons and 3 honorary flags awarded for exceptional military achievements. The inscriptions on a commemorative plaque for Ahotep I state, she completed the rituals caring for Egypt. She attended to the soldiers of Egypt, protecting the land. She brought back the exiles and gathered the fugitives. She pacified Upper Egypt and expelled the rebels. Women have demonstrated influential leadership, strategic prowess, and courageous combat abilities on the battlefield throughout world history. Therefore, it is important to show greater respect to the other half of the world, as they are fully capable of extraordinary achievements that many men aspire to.